This is a reconstruction of a real-life event. Sometimes people sell their babies in broad daylight, though these people are the masters of hyper-real dolls. UATV learned about every creative aspect of these unusual doll artists. People of many cultures for thousands of years were not fond of the idea of making dolls alike to human beings. Giving inanimate objects the features of living beings meant crossing the line between worlds, which was appropriate for magic rituals but not games. Then everything changed during the enlightening Victorian era, where many people dismissed their superstitious beliefs. The World Trade Fair was held in London in 1851 and served to show the industrial progress of different countries. But people were fascinated by the handmade products of Augusta Montanari. They were blue-eyed wax dolls, created with such precision that thousands of parents wanted to present them to their children as a gift. Soon the dolls were referred to as Montanari. Ironically, not a single portrait or photo of the author was saved. Soon a part of these wax dolls was exported to Europe and North America. It is the high popularity of Montanari that reinforced and led the way for more realistic dolls made from modern materials in the 20th century. I create designer Reborn dolls that are very similar to children and young infants. Varvara Lutic is not simply a master of reborn dolls, but the teacher of the subtle art of painting the little ones. One of her students is a combat veteran of the war in eastern Ukraine, named Serhiy Bonda, who found his vocation by chance. At first I was unsure about dolls, a male person and dolls, but it seems that my inner child was stronger. Some customers specifically search for me, a military ATO veteran, the one who makes dolls. It is interesting for them to order a doll and see what I do. Also in this episode, how did Varvara begin making reborn dolls? And how did she teach Serhiy this art? Why did it help the veteran to endure and recover from a concussion? How many layers of dye do you have to apply on a doll surface to imitate more than 70 tones of human skin? UATV discovers two masters whose names are well known in the art of reborn dolls. Montanari dolls were not intended to be played with, as wax was too easy to scratch and deteriorate after some time. The invention of cheap polymers enabled the 20th century manufacturing of these dolls for young children. They were everlasting and deterioration-proof, but of the same kind. Back in 1990, artists from New York came up with the idea to remove the fabric paint from dolls and custom dye them as realistically as possible, according to a collector's request. Therefore, these dolls acquired the name Reborn because they are renewed. They look and weigh like real children due to special fillers and have joint mobility. The community of reborn aficionados appeared as a result. They emerged on the international arena after the rapid development of the internet. Varvara Lutic has been making these dolls for 15 years. I made it through different stages, from primitive textile dolls, textile sculpture, joint dolls, boudoir dolls to teddy dolls. I tried to sew teddy dolls, but then noticed photos of these beautiful infants and didn't notice that they were dolls. So this is how I learned about reborn dolls. The master was convinced that such fine painting on the face, hands and legs is too hard for her. Soon she had to work with reborn dolls as her only option. I developed hypersensitivity to material that I worked with to create design dolls and the fine dust. It appears during the polishing process, but I was ailing from asthma, so it was very hard for me. However, dolls are important for me. I cannot just give them up. My friend suggested some help to teach me how to create reborns. Serhiy Bonda worked in a footwear repair shop for quite some time. He went to defend his country in the first wave of mobilization after Russia showed its aggression in eastern Ukraine in 2014. He specialized as a driver mechanic of a tank. The first combat occurred from the town of Shastya and ended in Hirorivka, near Luhansk airport. I was blown up on a landmine while I was driving a tank in the area of the Shishkivka village. You are thrown away by a blast and you experience such an impact that you fall unconscious. When you wake up, you cannot tell where the sky or earth is. You are just floating around. Then you realize you are trapped with a load of ammunition behind you, and you try to get out of there. Serhiy and his crew survived by a miracle. He received concussion, a closed injury, and lost his hearing in one ear. The veteran had to support his family and 2 children, along with taking care of his personal recovery. I could not go back to the repair shop because my hands were shaking, which made it difficult for me to do my job properly at the high level of quality. I worked as a driver, a security guard, and a packer on the factory line. I worked wherever I could in order to support my family. He and Varvara Lutik met by chance. The new Reborn dolls master needed assistance in taking photos of the dolls. Serhiy's wife became this reliable assistant. She told me about her husband. I had a lot of orders and had no time to stitch hair. Moreover, my hypersensitivity to dust re-emerged. I haven't cured it. I asked Serhiy to stitch hair and showed him how it was done. He managed to do it even better than I expected. The stitching was sharp, one hairline by another, within the same distance. I had a feeling that he calculated the distance so that it would be perfect, and he did a great job. Especially for UATV, Varvara Lutik tells you about what you need to know to make Reborn dolls. Serhiy Bonda shares his experience and how it helped his recovery. Both masters can explain to you how they are made. Not all Reborns are re-dyed fabric dolls nowadays. After quite some time, sculptors began to create models specifically for new artists. Not a single master makes such modelling, therefore vinyl silicone details are ordered online. The product assortment is the broadest. By age, this one is a newborn child, infant and toddler, from 9 months and more. Also, there are fantasy creatures, elves, aliens and gnomes, made by famous and highly in-demand sculptors that you have to look out for. Reborns are the work of 2 masters, a sculptor who makes the mould and an artist who paints it. Yet if a sculptor sells a series of the same kind of moulds, how can these dolls be original? Serhiy is convinced that 2 Reborns will never be identical. If you take 2 identical moulds, one master will paint them differently. Even if they make it simultaneously, the result will be different. I mean, there cannot be 2 identical Reborns on the market. The dyes for painting on an oil base are special as well. They also have to be ordered beforehand. Varvara says that some newcomers have a misconception that they have to be painters to make Reborns. In fact, an artist background will be a barrier, since they have a goal to make a convincing image of a baby, but not a portrait. They have to work from the hands and legs right up to the doll's face. At the same time, Varvara has a unique ritual before painting. Beforehand, I assemble the doll to understand how it will look. First, sometimes bodies made by sculptors do not match. To be honest, I'm a perfectionist. I treat every detail seriously, and they have to befit the age and proportions. If I receive a body that I don't like or it doesn't fit, I will change it or simply replace it with a new order. Indeed, the body of Reborns often has a textile base, since it is hidden under the clothing. However, Varvara checks more than just the proportions. I want to understand, is it a newborn baby, 2 weeks old, or a grown baby, for instance, a month old? According to the age, I choose the clothing and then paint it. It can be painted as a newborn, but the proportions will show that it is a 3-month-old infant. Both Varvara and Serhiy have grown children. The photos from the internet are not enough to understand how everything is organized, as hardly a single camera can capture the color, tones and transitions like a human eye can. Reborn doll masters have to constantly watch closely in order to see all possible examples. Sometimes young mothers are walking with a baby carriage and you observe her. They notice and think you are some kind of weirdo, like some stranger just walking around. You try to see them, where the skin is red or blue, and how redness is spread on their cheeks. In other words, everything. Oh, here is green, and here I can add yellow. The fingers can be lighter in color, And here I can add more blush. Oh, what a beautiful birthmark I see here. Oh, how beautifully and cute the brow is scratched. Recently I got lucky when I was walking in a park. A child in a carriage was so small and they put their heel outside. After having these images, an artist of Reborn dolls finally starts their work. The sketches or a specific plan is unnecessary. They have an image in their head that will be transformed during painting. Overall, they need to apply not 10 or 20 layers of dye, but 40 layers on a clean surface of the mold. Every skin tone is 10 to 15, up to 20 layers of dye. Then we apply blue stains, veins, fat rolls and marbleness. The marbleness also has several layers of different colours for achieving the right skin structure. When the dye is applied, it is dissolved in a special solvent, according to the chosen dye. It is applied on the mould with a brush on specific details. Only then is it put in a special oven, aero grill, and then gets baked. Every layer of dye is applied and then baked. The baking temperature is 100 to 130 degrees. Then you have to wait until the detail cools down before applying a new layer. Hyper-realistic painting is an art for hyper-patient people. Thanks to this work, Serhiy managed to get rid of his problem of shaking hands after his concussion. It is cured because of fine motor skills. Psychologists in the rehabilitation center gave us plasticine, clay and different things so that we could make small details or figures. Here the same principle is applied. We draw lips and the tongue if the mouth is open. Then we draw eyebrows, eyelashes. And everything is then backed under the top coat. Then we stitch the hair and set the eyes.